What? We're starting up. Okay. And that looks like it worked. All right. We are live. So as everybody spends some time sort of filtering into the different live streams here, we're going to be running this both on Facebook and YouTube, which seemed to work pretty well the other day. So that was good that our technical test went well. And we're going to go through, we're going to take a bunch of questions from everybody and talk through things. But we are live with Colin from FC Malaga City, New York, which is a club and a school here in the Hudson Valley now. And so we've got John and Ashley, our resident soccer experts. And I will throw in some rowing knowledge if the occasion seems pertinent as we go. But Colin, why don't we give you a chance to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about what you guys have going on. And we'll get into some questions that we have, and then we'll take some questions as people throw them up here.
Sounds good. So Colin McComb, I'm kind of a lifelong resident of Dutchess County. Born here in Rhinebeck. Moved around the country quite a bit. Came back to this area to raise my family. I'm a Lourdes graduate. My wife's a Lourdes graduate. What I've been doing for the last couple of years is basically finding pathways for young soccer players to get to their full potential. And in doing that, so we made some great relationships overseas in Europe, and found a need to have flexibility around education. And so that led to this last year starting a school here in the Hudson Valley. So now we have 35 students full-time in our school program. 11 of them are over in Spain full-time, and the rest are here in Pleasant Valley. They come from different parts of the world. They come from different parts of the country, and they're have a similar mind of trying to get to the highest levels of their soccer abilities. But we've grounded them with a very high level of education rigor as well. And then we combine that with the ability to get over to Spain to be seen professionally and get opportunities there. So right now our entire student body's over in Spain, where it's on the morning that you guys had your snowstorm podcast. It was 70 degrees, and our boys played a game that morning. So I had my coffee watching the game at it was like 5 o'clock in the morning.
Oh.
Wow,
That's awesome.
that's Justin's lunchtime, actually.
That's amazing. Now, so you guys had a lot of this remote schooling going on before any of this COVID stuff happened.
Yeah, so it was always our idea to use the technology that's available for education now as a means to getting the flexibility that our students needed. Obviously, right now it's kind of hard to play soccer outside. And I believe you guys are at Gold's Gym, right? So Gold's has been, had a tremendous history of having some indoor soccer, but it's not quite the same as getting out on a full-size pitch and playing outside, right? So you're limiting what you can do. The Dome has some stuff over in Milton. Danbury built a big dome, but it's still not the same as getting outside and training full-time outside. So when we set things up and we were looking at how we were going to, one, give the boys the exposure that they wanted, and two, work around their training regimen, we knew we needed flexibility. And then just to launch a school the way that we wanted to, we couldn't build a brick and mortar environment and hire 30 different teachers to handle 8th grade through postgraduate studies. So before COVID hit, we were already evaluating the best packages for providing technology enabled education. We combine that with actual live teachers in the classroom, and the students are in person, right? So I think everybody kind of has a view of online education as, you know, my kid up in his room trying to do his work, and we're not about that, right? We wanted a classroom environment, but we needed the flexibility that an online education, can provide.
That's great, and it provides
awesome.
So many different experts in different fields by doing that. That's really great. I know that's something. I have a little bit of like a skiing background, and I know that's something that a lot of the higher level skiers will use as a similar way. They'll go off to some of these places opposite of Spain, way up in the mountains to get colder and colder and more snow. But they can have access to all these different resources.
That's right on, Justin. I mean, that's some of the models that we investigated were ski schools in Vermont and Utah that are doing exactly that, right? And one of the themes is that we were reading, and as we were talking to these people that are doing similar things, there's some hockey schools as well. But there was a common theme that we kept getting from them that we didn't take into account, and that's that you're bringing like-minded, very competitive people into a group, and that competitiveness that they have in that field and the camaraderie that they have in the field translates to the classroom. So we have this uber competitive environment, and you see it in the kids' results and the accolades they get from the teachers. But we also have this uber camaraderie between 8th graders and guys that are postgraduates, right? So we have middle schoolers in the school, and we have 19-year-olds, and you don't have this kind of traditional, hey, I'm new on the block, I'm an 8th grader and I'm going into high school type environment where there's this hierarchy. It's just team. So that was really neat. We didn't anticipate that, even though we had been told about it a couple of times, but it's been tremendous for us.
That's great. That's really neat.
How does it compare to like down in Bradenton, where like the U.S. soccer teams, like, because that's really my only experience with any of these I guess clubs that have the academics built into the athletic side of things.
Yeah, so Bradenton is what's the name of it now? It's not U.S. Soccer anymore. It's IMG. Thank you.
Yeah.
Right. So, the first and foremost difference between us and their program, is they are focused in Bradenton, and we have the trip to Spain. Right. So we take all of our student body. They go, well, the high school students go to Spain for 3 months. Right.
Yeah. I was reading 3 months. That's awesome. That's an immersion.
Yeah. So if you think back to 3 months ago, right, what you were doing, then you really get you get the length of it, right? So it's easy to say 90 days, but if you go back to, especially with 2 feet of snow on the ground, go back 3 months, and the beautiful fall weather that we were enjoying, it's a long period of time.
I think
but it's
3
really
months
important.
ago, Justin was dragging our butts up to the top of Mount Snow.
I was.
It was September.
Yeah. Right.
Yep.
So
and it was 30 degrees that morning. Not even.
So that's really important, right? Because there's other soccer schools, like Barcelona Academy has a school out in Arizona, right?
Mm-hmm.
They do bring a very small subset of their school internationally, but it's kind of like the elite of the elite within their program, and they go for like 7 to 10 days, right?
Mm-hmm.
IMG does some things, but it's more like visiting a tournament, going here or there, and then they have their base teams come into them. So what we thought was really important is getting the boys that exposure on the world stage. Now this year it's a little limited because of COVID, But last year, this time, the team played the teams over in Spain with these kids played. They played Barcelona's academy. Year before, they played Real Madrid. They played Manchester City. They played Norwich Academy. They played Atletico Madrid. Right. They played Seville. And the story I like to tell about, like, for example, the Seville game is they got beat 8-3 playing this Seville under-19s, which sounds horrible, right? But the reality is the striker scored three goals in that game from Malaga's team, and there was somebody there scouting and said, "Hey, if you have your boots and you can come with us, we'll take you to our academy right now. We'd like to give you a couple day trial." Right?
Wow.
Now, that doesn't happen if you're only over there for 10 days, because the guy watching you comes and says, "Hey, would you like to stay and do this?" And, "Hey, I'm sorry, I'm going home. I don't have any time."
Yeah.
But if you have this 3-month period of time, you're more settled in and you have access and you have those opportunities. Now, it wasn't a Seville coach that took the kid on either. It was another team in the table that was battling to get to the top. They were there scouting Seville and was like, "Hey, here's a kid that can score 3 goals on them. That'd be a great addition to our team." You never know either. Like, I've been to the academy over in Spain 5-6 times over the past 2 years. And you look around and it looks like just some old guy that's come off the streets to watch a game. There's not a lot of parents there. It's not that, but that guy could be a scout from another team. There's always somebody watching. So we thought that was really important to our program. And your question, Justin, I'm like going on and on.
No, go ahead.
How are we different from IMG, right? That's the first thing. We offer the access, and we're including that and everything. We buy the plane tickets. We fly them over as a group. The academy bus picks them up and takes them to their training ground there. It's all included in their tuition, and which leads me to the second major part that is very different about us. IMG is $65,000 a year as a boarding school. The Barcelona Academy is in the high 50s, right? So, we do need to pay our bills, and it takes a lot to fly a group of 30 kids and then care for them in Spain and have a full education program. But, our day students are $20,000 a year, right? So, that's comparable to a parochial school with a soccer program on top of it, right? A normal club soccer program. If you add it up, I always challenge people who kind of talk about, well, that seems really expensive. Well, add up everything you do now and compare it, and I don't think you'll find much margin.
Right.
So,
especially with an educational component to it.
That's right.
That's a huge part.
Exactly.
Where do the players stay when they're over there for the 3 months?
So there's we have a full-time academy in Spain. There's 200 athletes that are there. They come from all over the world. So something that I constantly need to kind of educate people on is FC Malaga City in Spain is not a Spanish academy. The coaches are Spanish, the facilities are Spanish, but their model is really to bring in kids from around the world that are in soccer-rich cultures, but don't have soccer-rich pathways to professionals. So you see a lot of Norwegians, you see a lot of Scandinavians, South African players, African players, some parts of South America, Australians, Moroccans. There's an a couple Israeli kids that were there in the past too. So you get this. They like to say there's 6 continents represented at the academy, and they're still working on getting kids from Antarctica. But
make it happen.
That's awesome.
But you get this great melting pot, which is another really cool experience for the kids when they're over there. because they're interacting with all these different, international players, and they have a common language of soccer, right? So,
That's it.
Moroccan kids speak French, but and they're straight over from Africa, but they're mingling and everybody's there together. So
yeah, that's great. It doesn't matter that they can't speak the same language. The ball's round; it bounces every direction. So
that's right. That's right.
There's hand signals for that.
If so, for the American, like, kind of non-soccer layperson, I mean, you're exactly right. There's a language of the game, and growing up playing like Little League baseball, everybody knows a ground ball down first baseline, the second baseman back up the first baseman. Right? It's just a natural movement that occurs. And the first time you have like a company T-ball game, and there's people out there that haven't played baseball, and they don't follow the patterns that you're expecting, right? It becomes very obvious. But if you step on a field and people understand the patterns that they should be playing, it's kind of a no-brainer. So you're exactly right. No matter the language, where the people come from, political backgrounds, race, creed, they step on the soccer field together, and there's a common language spoken.
Yeah,
that's great. Now, where are you guys looking to bring the club going forward? What are the sort of future plans and things in the future?
So, one of the things that we're kicking off this year is we've brought on a USL 2 franchise, which is basically the fourth division of American soccer. It's set up mainly for college level athletes looking to take the next step. Main reason that we did that was so that we could be included in the USL Academy program for our younger ages, and they've set up a tremendous program and network with the USL Academy. But that will be, COVID permitting, it will allow us to field a senior team, a first team, a men's team. I'm talking soccer language here, but to put it just in general American terms, a minor league soccer team that will play out of Pleasant Valley at our field there. So with that, we're planning on bringing some of the players that play for our senior teams over in Spain back to the United States to do that. But we're also looking for high-level local players to just tie into the community. So one of the things that we're going to be doing is visiting the local clubs, Beekman Soccer Club, East Fishkill, LaGrange Soccer Club, town of Poughkeepsie, and talking with the leaders of those clubs and just saying, hey, who over the past few years, who are your top people that have graduated out of your club, right? Because we'd like to represent, LaGrange Soccer Club in our USL team. We're not looking to take players from the youth club, right? We're looking to find the 23-year-old that came from your program, and then highlight them as a special kid who came out of your program.
Yeah. And you guys started originally.
You're not 23, John.
What?
Sorry.
You're not 23, John. I see you trying to jump right there.
I can fake my ID.
I'm the closest there, and I could just shave my head.
You guys, you started originally as a Beekman program, right? You were at a Beekman?
Yes.
Yeah, nice. That's awesome. See, that's grassroots stuff that I really like to see coming from our area. And I know Ashley and I both agree. It's seriously, none of this was around when I was in high school and growing up through club ball. It was ODP was kind of like the big thing, and we didn't have any of the
It was
private
the big
clubs.
new thing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
The big new thing for us.
I remember the biggest thing for me was like, why do the numbers on the back have why do I have 4 numbers or 5 numbers on the back of my shirt?
Yep.
But
super weird.
Yeah, and I think PDL had just started. I think like the Westchester Flames was one of the closest clubs to us at the time, and some of my club guys kind of broke off as we became juniors and seniors in college. We've been together since we were 11, 12, 13. So it was, it was really nice to see that then, and then to see how like the opportunities have kind of, blossomed from there is pretty cool. And to see you guys kind of taking over for PDL. And so that was kind of one of my big questions I had was, what are the regulations for ages? Because I think PDL has a little bit different qualification standards than other teams and leagues in like the fourth division. So do you have to keep the same ones that they had? Are they any different?
Yeah, there are regulations on the age. It's really set up to incent having younger players on the team, right? So I don't remember the exact numbers, but I think you can have 8 or 10 players that are older, for example, that are over 23, right?
Okay. Yeah.
And then the rest of your roster needs to be 23 or younger, right? Same thing with domestic and international players. You're only allowed 8 or 10 international players. The rest have to be domestic, right? So it's really about finding pathways for those younger players that kind of between college and getting to the next level. And that's what's really nice about the USL Academy League as well, is that what that's set up to do is really have a reserve team or your up and coming players for the USL, whether it be USL2, our USL2 team, or like Hartford Athletic, which is I think a championship level team, right? That's like second division. So we'll be playing against these other teams, and if they see one of our 17, 18, 19-year-old players that they want for their club, that could be a good addition to the club. They can pick them up. So our whole thing has been around finding pathways for players. And you brought up the roots in Beekman. I had a group of kids that I had since they were 7 years old. Very early on, is like the years that Barcelona was doing so well, and those kids were focused on I want to be a professional player. I think kind of every kid says that at some point, right? But instead of saying like, no, there's 0.1% and it's really hard, and there's not a way to do that, and I said to the parents, let's figure out what that means. We quickly found it's very difficult to go through the traditional means of professional sports here in the United States. Like if we were playing football and somebody said, I want to be a professional football player, you kind of know what you gotta do there, right? You probably play for some prep school down in New Jersey or Texas, and then you get picked up by a Division I school, play in the SEC, and get drafted, right? That's the pathway to professional football. But for soccer, it's very, very different. And in the rest of the world, soccer is really seen as a trade, is a way that I like to explain it to parents. So, if you're going to be a tradesperson, you kind of, you don't really need to go to college, and maybe you focus on your trade work, and you go into that trade, and you start out at a lower level and you make your way up. For the rest of the world, that's generally how athletes are approaching soccer, right? So if you go to Europe, you go to England, you go to South America, the kids that are excelling in their academies have, basically dropped out of school and are working through trying to become a professional soccer player. We don't endorse that at all. We don't endorse that at all. In fact, we're trying to change the game for the rest of the world, and that's why we have our academy in Spain too, has the same educational program, and we're trying to promote, hey, you should have a backup plan. You should have, and a lot of the kids in Europe that are in the academy, their backup plan is, I'll go play in America and get a college scholarship. If you look at the Division I and Division II teams, about half of the players on the rosters are international players, right? So there's a real pathway there, but you still need to have a strong educational background. You still need to have strong, college board scores. So we're providing that. But being a professional soccer player doesn't mean that you're necessarily going to step on the field at Chelsea or Bayern Munich and make millions of dollars. You could be a professional soccer player and support a family and live a nice life and make a couple $100 a week or whatever it is, right? And get your lifestyle subsidized by the club that you're playing for. Play in the third or fourth division, right? For a team that most American households have not heard of. So there's a bit of parent education in that, but what we stress overall is education first. Education first, have that plan, and make sure that that's really solid.
Nice.
Now, what about, where are most of the facilities? So we're kind of dealing with the Hudson Valley. Where are you guys located? Majority, fields, stuff like that.
So
where's training occurring? All the above.
So I saw your podcast, your last podcast, right? Because this is like the new first one, right?
Right.
Yep.
Yeah. And the last podcast was on Memorial Day weekend, right in the thick of COVID. We broke ground that weekend on our outdoor field that's in Pleasant Valley. So that was a huge undertaking for us that had months of planning and a lot of capital investment. Great partnership with the Boy Scouts. That's actually the land that we use is at the Boy Scout camp in Pleasant Valley. It's called Camp New Teaming. It's an absolutely beautiful property. There's 260 acres there. Gorgeous. The Boy Scouts have invested a tremendous amount into the property, building facilities. And if you get a chance, just go by. Even in the winter, it's beautiful. But so we did the capital investment to build the field there in exchange for leasing the property from them and having access to some of the facilities, and that's where our school facilities are as well. But there is out in the forest, about a mile back into this Boy Scout camp, there is a 70 by 120 yard field. It's as big as Barcelona's field. It's only lined for soccer. There's not all the crazy football and lacrosse and field hockey lines. It's lighted, and the way that it sits on an embankment. So there's a big slope for fans to sit on this kind of bowl amphitheater. Boy Scouts built a set of locker rooms there. So we have on-site locker rooms. There's a swimming pool right next to it as well. And then the other side of the slope drops off immediately, and you have a view of all the Shawangunk Mountains.
Nice.
That's amazing.
West, so it's absolutely beautiful. So that's our main. That's where we play our games, and that's where the USL will play. We also have the partnership with Beekman Soccer, and the town in Unionville. Has been tremendous. The town of Unionville is where our boarding facilities are. Timor Park has, I think, again, it's like 250 acres of farmland that was donated by the farmer that was there. I think it's Connor or O'Connor that donated the land. But there's the old farmhouses are still on the property, and we leased one of those farmhouses and we've turned it into our boarding house. So there's fields adjacent to Timor Park. There's some great fields there as well. And we utilize those fields for our club program and some of our academy training.
Brilliant.
That's great.
Timor's a great place to get out and run through. So I'm sure the boys are doing some running there too.
Yeah. So are you a runner?
We kind of all are. We're well ingrained in running, but I drive past Timor every day on my way home because I live out that way. So I know it pretty well. Grew up there. That sleigh riding hill. Make sure none of them get on there. Just some recommendations.
Yeah, so I'm local in that area as well, and I'm a runner too. So my background is actually not soccer. So I ran cross country track.
Okay.
As an ultra marathoner, and so yeah, I know all the trails at Time War very well.
Yeah.
Yep.
What, did you run at Lord's
I did.
cross country? When were you there?
I graduated in '90.
Who's the coach?
The coach was he's a chiropractor at a Hyde Park. Oh my gosh, I'm really old now. Joe Barber.
All right.
Joe Barber.
Oh, okay. All right. I'm a Lord's guy as well, so definitely good to hear that. I thought I was gonna date Mr. Danke. Was he?
He was still around. He's still around there. Yep.
But, I mean, was he coaching at the time back then? Was he still okay?
No.
All right. I don't want to make him older than he is if for some reason he's gonna watch it. Sorry, Mr. Dank.
That's great. Now, as far as the boarding students go, how far away are they coming from? Where are most of them coming from?
So this year we have Massachusetts, Pennsylvania. We're getting. We started this we started really recruiting for what we're doing right now a year ago, maybe a year and a month ago. I'm just kind of looking at my calendar over here.
Okay.
So, we're trying to get the word out as COVID is escalating, right?
Timing,
Yeah,
right?
we get that a little bit.
Yeah. So basically, we have kind of regional kids right now, but the applications that are coming in and the people that we're talking to, there's quite a few from around the country: Minnesota, California, Texas, Florida that'll be coming in, which really changes the game, right? So if you're running a U17 and U18 team, and you have players, you have access to a player pool from around the country. It's much different training environment, let alone competition level than teams that are pulling just from the immediate area.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Nice. Now I'm just sort of curious, based on sort of our background and the different things that that we're into. What does the strength training side of the program look like? What are these kids doing? Picking things up.
So we need to do more. We were really kind of limited as to what we could do because the gyms were all closed down, right?
Oh, right.
And then we didn't have our own equipment. So our plan was to work with a gym. We had to kind of pivot, and you guys are all runners. Do you guys know Eric Orton? So Eric Orton, I was looking at some of the stuff that you had out there, Justin, about stretching or not stretching.
Oh yeah.
All right. So he's a big balance and stability guy, and if you're having a problem, say with your hamstring, maybe you need to work on your glutes, right, to strengthen and elongate that muscle through strengthening the muscles around it, right? So we did a lot of that, right? A lot of plyometrics, a lot of band work, a lot of balance, and core conditioning. But it was kind of around my knowledge from a running standpoint rather than being specific to soccer. So that's an area that we need to improve upon. When the coaches come from Spain, one of the folks that we're bringing along is a kind of a guy that's very into CrossFit, and also is a physio and trainer for the senior teams over there. So he's interested in basically seeing what's going on over here from a CrossFit perspective, but that's going to be a part of our program. if you have ideas, though, right now we're in our planning stage, and we're really looking for some physio people to partner with.
I would say you've probably piqued all of our curiosities.
Yes. Yes.
And be careful what you wish for, because you'll get the three of us talking and you won't get us to shut up. So
big time, especially when it comes to that side of things.
Yeah. You know, one of the things that we struggled to implement that we saw in Europe. So we struggled to implement it here that we saw in Europe was that, you know, they do things in a cycle, and as runners, you guys would get this, right? Like you can't race a 10K every day. You can't race a 10K every 3 days, unless you're like, there are some people that do some crazy stuff, but you know, your body will break down and you're not going to be at peak performance. So you really need to have a microcycle through your week that tapers you for the performance, and then you need to recover from it, and then you get your build work in between. We try to do that from a training perspective, but the irregularity of games sometimes throws a wrench in it. What I'd like to do, and this is something we can maybe collaborate on some other time, or past this brief conversation, is how do you include the yoga, the balance, the core work, the strength training, and the endurance outside of just training sessions? How do you include that into your cycles as well? And what's the right things to be doing on certain days, 2 days before a match, 1 day after a match day, you know? Because I think it's more than just touches on the ball, especially if we're trying to do a whole 100%. Athlete and be professionally minded about the way that we're going about training and running our lifestyles. So we'd love your feedback on that.
John and I have done some stuff for coaching about this type of stuff, and have it kind of put together a little bit already, plus some other stuff. So I think we can put some minds together to help you guys out a little bit, possibly.
And I've been, my first introduction into strength training and how important it is when I got to college. And I'm from small town, USA here, Dutchess County. I was a big fish in a small pond at Lord's. Had some great success there. And then I played Division I in a very small Division I program. We're not talking a fully funded one, right? And I get there, and the biggest thing was, we were lifting 2-3 times a week in season with the team. At 5:30 in the morning, we're going up to the varsity weight room, and I'm like, what the hell is this? Like, I did strength training, but like, what the hell is a squat? Like, what's a lunge? Like back home, we did, biceps.
What's a deadlift?
So, my coach then, Brajesh Patel, he was phenomenal. And he's actually moved on to Quinnipiac a year after I graduated there, and he's had phenomenal success there, with hockey and basketball teams. But I still talk with him regularly, and I still set up mentor calls with him. And every couple months, he blows my mind with some of the new information that's out there for for strength and conditioning. And it's just I love talking to him and learning, and so that we try and sprinkle that as much as we can into things, and those are the types of material that we try and get into some of the coaches and some of the parents and the players themselves too. How important it is, but it's a very dynamic industry. Healthcare, fitness, they kind of go hand in hand, at least for us, because we're dealing with movement sciences here. But that's where I think the biggest low hanging fruit exists for all youth athletes, right? And so the struggle that you're mentioning is you're not alone in that struggle by any means, but it's actually quite, at least maybe for us, it's quite simple to kind of, incorporate into the weekly programming. The problem is getting people to buy into how simple it can be. I'd say that's probably my biggest struggle. And I tell people, and they're like, no, I've got to do more than that. I'm like, no, we don't, So yeah, it's, I'll kind of step off that little soapbox right now, but we would be happy to kind of send some stuff your way, continue that conversation. But that's just fun for us.
John, if you didn't hop on it, I was going to hop on it real quick. So you got ahead of me, but I feel like it's one of those things. It's one of those things. And I can go on about the female athlete all day and how important it is, but it's important for any youth athlete. And it's just one of those things, people forget the importance of it, or they don't know the importance of it, which is where we have to bridge that gap. If we get stronger, performance gets better. Like it's just one of those things that we know, and we can get faster and we can store more energy and release more energy. So it's just, we just need the buy-in.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
So we have a captive audience. That's one of the nice things that we have at the academy, right? Because we have the kids all day. We have boarding students, right? So one of the things that we tackled right away is the nutrition, because that's the other piece of the pie, right? Is nutrition, right? So we've set up a grazing program throughout the day at the school. So from the time that their training is in the morning, first of all, each day. Then they shower and change and they come into the school environment. And from the moment they walk through the door, they have healthy snacks available to them the whole time. So it's like little snacks all day long. And then they finish their school day around 4:30. But it's not set up really around a big lunch, or they don't have the temptation of, I'm going to get a candy bar, I'm going to go do this, right? We spread out the healthy snacks. So we've got a good handle on that. Can't say that the kids don't fall off the wagon on weekends and when they're home and different things like that.
Right.
But that strength training and including that is a piece that definitely want to work on with you guys.
Nice. Yeah. Now I want to make sure we're respectful of your time and don't go on, because we could talk forever here. But one thing I think that would be really helpful to cover for everybody is advice that you might have for parents. As much as we think we have a large, young kid audience, it seems to be not what they spend their nights doing. You're
not going to tune into our chat here.
I think, we talk with a lot of parents about where they want their kids to go athletically, what their kids should be focusing on, and how that goes. And so I'd be curious to hear, based on your experience, what advice you pass on to parents in that realm.
And so, thanks. I think two things that come to mind immediately. One is listen to what your kids want, right? Because I think as parents, we have a tendency to project what we think our kids should do, right? And the path that they should take. I think, it's not that the kid's in charge, but, it's very easy as a parent to lead them down a path that's the path that you want them to take, rather than listening to them express what they're kind of after and try to interpret what they're saying, rather than herd them in the direction that you think is right. And I think that's really important, because the second point of advice would be keep an open mind to what's out there now versus what your experience was, as a middle schooler, as a high school student or athlete, because it's a very different environment, especially if you're a parent that hasn't stayed active or connected to where things are today. That's academically as well as athletically, right? So keep an open mind, understand what's out there, understand the different pathways that are available, and then listen to what your kid is asking for.
I like it. I think that's important. Yeah. For the record, my son really wants to ski on those super cold days. So he begs us to take him out. We're not dragging him out.
But that's great though, right? I mean, that's what you want. You want, I think it's, for example, I don't know your specific situation, but if your son just loves skiing and that's all he wants to do, right? I don't think that's a bad thing. I think encourage that, right? Yeah. And that, me personally, I wanted to be a runner. I loved it. I was doing it constantly, right? So I got a push sometimes to, hey, diversify yourself. Hey, go do this other thing, right? I was like, no, I really wanted to focus on what I'm doing. So if you got a kid that wants to be out there, let him get out there, even if it's 0 degrees, and you can stay in the lodge.
Yep. Yeah. John, Ashley, any last questions before we let Colin go and get off to his evening here?
I don't necessarily think so.
All right.
I mean, the biggest note I made from today is that I think we should throw Spain on our list for the company trip next year. Just
yes,
for sure.
We have to leave the country after this year.
We will happily join in.
Yeah,
sounds good.
I like it. Before we sign off, Colin, people want to learn more about the Academy and everything you guys are doing. Where's the best way for them to find out about you guys?
Sure. So I think our website is best. It's FC Malaga, MALAGA City -NY.com. FC Malaga City -NY.com.
So for anybody hanging out on the Facebook Live or the YouTube Live, I will throw that down in the comment area so it's easy for everyone to find. And then when we do get this up into the podcast form, we'll throw all of the information in the show notes that go at the end of the podcast. However that works, magically they sort of appear. So thank you so much, Colin, for joining us. It was great chatting. Have a great night,
nice
everybody.
It's awesome to know this is it's awesome to know it's in our backyard.
Yeah. It's great.
Very good. All right. Thanks, guys. I appreciate it. Thanks for the time.
Thank you.
Not a problem. Thank you.